When we came to Shropshire, we got married and we lived down in Bristol. And then we moved back up to the Wirral because a really good job came up at Liverpool. And I was quite keen to get back there. And the rest of the Bristol lot was sort of, we're not going up there. So Neil moved up to become an assistant director at Liverpool Museums. It was very nice. He had a lovely house. Then he found this wretched place in Shropshire, totally tumbled down. We settled down very well. And as the children grew up, I started doing this project with the Newtown Corporation, mapping the woodlands in the Severn Gorge, and then the green space within the new town, with an idea to doing some sort of green network, which was quite, Milton Keynes and Warrington were both doing it. It was quite an in thing at the time.
Yeah.
So we sort of were doing that and saying we need these green spaces for people.
And the new town being Telford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. And that's where we started saying, well, you know, we need people involved. And we started doing is the Wildlife in Telford, come and join the new Telford branch of the Wildlife Trust. And
Okay.
I'm not sure what the Wildlife Trust thought of it all, but they were very polite.
So is that, what year was that, would you say?
That would be in the 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
children were growing up and
Yeah.
they'd gone into secondary school. And I thought, right, Malcolm's gone from junior school, so I don't need to do the life saving anymore and the teaching to swim or the brownies. I'll do the Wildlife Trust instead.
Yeah. Okay. So in those years that you've been involved with the Shropshire Wildlife Trust, what's been a highlight, if you can pinpoint anything?
I think the trouble is the word a highlight, because there have been so many really important moments. But I think probably without looking for a highlight, what's been really satisfying is watching it steadily grow, steadily find out more and more about the wildlife of Shropshire and its associated places, getting people involved, getting schools involved, and just the steady growth and the way it hasn't been, we're special, go away, we know the secrets, but we've got our arms open and we're inviting people to come and get involved and find out, and then go home and do it for themselves in their gardens or with their friends, or go for walks or find out. And that's been really important, I think.
When you first started working with the Shropshire Wildlife Trust, how has it changed over those years?
Well, I think in some ways it hasn't changed so much as steadily grown, because it was small and the people who were involved knew a lot, but they weren't turning their back on everybody. They weren't go away, we're special, we're secretive. They've always been very inclusive. And as we've managed to grow and get more resources, they've become more inclusive of more and more people.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the most satisfying thing for me, watching people in schools and watching us going to towns and green networks in towns and linking up the countryside. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think seeing young people getting excited
yes.
when they're kind of got their nets and their pond dipping.
And the sort of thing that I really understood suddenly, and it took all the grandchildren, the youngest grandchildren, I finally twigged. This pool behind us, when we did it, it's got quite a lot of nice things in it. And normally I would do the classic wildlife thing, come with me, my darlings, and I will show you. And with Tom, I didn't.
Okay.
I just didn't say a word. And there was a voice saying, come, quick, come and see. And he'd found the newts in here, but he'd found them and he dragged me to see them. And I thought, why has it taken him as the last grandchild before I've realised that you don't show people, you let them discover.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
he was
really
so excited,
key.
and he stayed in love with that pool ever since.
So what do you think that Shropshire Wildlife Trust needs to be doing over the next 5 to 10 years?
Probably just sort of reinforcing what we started, because we've got very good coverage, and we work with lots of different people. We've got really good, clear ideas of what we want to do in places. getting the resources together and getting the programs done and achieving the ends, and particularly the peat bogs, and making sure they stay wet and capture plenty of carbon. I think I'm not avoiding the question, but I think at the moment we've got a good coverage, and we need the resources, the time to just build up on it, working in partnerships. You do need a group of people who are clear and persistent, not necessarily anguished and loud, but just got the evidence, got the message, and do not give up.
Yeah, that's a really good message. I think that's really good.
Do not give up.
Yeah, yeah.
And we haven't over the years. We really haven't.
No.
Yeah.
So what do you see as being the kind of main way forward in terms of ensuring nature conservation in Shropshire?
I'm having a good think about that at the moment, actually, because there's quite a sort of, I don't know if you've had people talking about it, whether you have to have people involved. So you have reserves, but they're for people and wildlife, or whether you can have places that are for wildlife.
Yeah.
And this whole sort of, where do we fit population, people, pressures of people wanting to live, wildlife into a county like Shropshire, so that we end up wildlife rich, and yet people have got what they need.
Yeah.
And I know it's slightly outside of what the Wildlife Trust perhaps just sets itself to do, but I think it's quite an important process
Yeah.
to just think through, not just members, but people. Do you say, okay, you all come to Cardinal Valley, but we want you to come to other places, and we'll have little car parks, and we'll encourage you to come out and explore. We'll come into schools. We want green space in towns.
Yeah.
Hedgehogs are doing better in London than they are in Shropshire. All of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite an interesting next stage of how we live.
Yeah, just understanding that balance.
Yeah,
I suppose.
yes. Especially as people can travel so much more, and and it's a small island, and we say it's very green, but it isn't really. My daughter lives in Germany, and you get these big forests and really big spaces with people not living in them.
Yeah.
And then you come here and it's really crowded.
Yeah.
And there's not that much woodland, and it doesn't link up well. And we think Shropshire is amazingly green and open, and we're probably exceptional, and it's not that amazingly. It's got plenty of pressures. So I think the most important thing is, how do we keep the wildlife, the wild spaces, but also the fact that so many people live here.